Richard Hayworth stood at his office window, watching the morning commuters hurry along the sidewalks 40 floors below. At 39, he had built Hayworth Industries into one of the city's most successful tech companies. But success had come with a price he was only beginning to understand. His 7-year-old son Danny was the center of his world, the one bright constant since his ex-wife had decided that motherhood didn't fit her vision of the future. But lately, Richard felt the weight of expectations pressing down from all sides, especially from his business partners who seemed convinced that a stable family image was essential for the company's upcoming merger with a conservative Japanese firm. "Richard?" His assistant knocked softly on the door. "The board meeting is in 10 minutes. He straightened his tie and gathered his papers, pushing aside thoughts of the conversation he'd had with his lawyer the night before. The custody arrangement was under review again, and his ex-wife's attorney had made pointed comments about his bachelor lifestyle and whether it provided appropriate stability for Danny. Sometimes Richard felt like he was playing a role rather than living his life. At home that evening, Richard found Danny in the kitchen with Elena Rodriguez, the woman who had been keeping their household running for the past 2 years. At 42, Elena had a warmth and competence that made their house feel like a home. Danny adored her, and Richard had come to rely on her steady presence more than he cared to admit. "Senor Richard," Elena said, looking up from where she was helping Danny with his math homework. "How was your day?" "Long," Richard replied honestly, loosening his tie. "And about to get longer. I have the charity gala tomorrow night." Elena nodded knowingly. These events were always a source of stress for Richard, who felt constantly scrutinized by business associates and their wives. "Papa, why don't you ever bring anyone to those parties?" Danny asked, looking up from his multiplication tables. "Tommy's dad always brings his girlfriend to everything." The innocent question hit Richard harder than any board meeting criticism, out of the mouths of babes. Later that evening, after Danny was tucked into bed with his favorite story, Richard found Elena finishing up in the kitchen. "Elena, can I ask you something?" He sat down at the counter, running his hands through his hair. "This is going to sound unusual." She turned from the sink, giving him her full attention with that patient way she had. "Tomorrow night's gala is important for the company. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny, a lot of questions about my personal life. The board thinks—" He paused, feeling foolish. "They think I need to project a more stable image. Family man, settled down, that sort of thing." Elena waited quietly, her dark eyes thoughtful. "I know this sounds crazy, but would you consider coming with me as my date? Just for the evening, just for appearances." Elena was quiet for a long moment, and Richard immediately regretted asking. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "That was inappropriate." "No," Elena said softly. "I understand why you asked, and I understand what you're facing. But, Senor Richard, are you sure this is the solution?" "I don't know what else to do," he admitted. "I feel like I'm being judged constantly. At work, in court, everywhere. Like I'm failing Danny somehow because I can't provide him with a picture-perfect family." Elena dried her hand slowly, choosing her words carefully. "In my experience, children don't need picture-perfect families. They need parents who love them and show up for them every day. You do that. But what if it's not enough? What if the court decides, then we make sure it is enough?" Elena said quietly. "If you truly believe this will help Danny, then yes, I will go with you tomorrow night." The next evening, Richard barely recognized Elena when she appeared at the top of the stairs. Gone was the simple uniform she wore for housework. Instead, she wore an elegant black dress that highlighted her natural grace, her dark hair swept up in a sophisticated style. "Elena, you look—" Richard found himself momentarily speechless. "Beautiful," she smiled, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Gracias. I borrowed the dress from my sister. She said I needed to look the part." At the gala, Richard was amazed by how naturally Elena fit into the evening. She spoke knowledgeably about art with the museum director's wife, charmed the elderly Japanese executives with stories about Danny's latest school projects, and handled every social situation with a poise that put Richard's own networking skills to shame. "Your girlfriend is lovely, Mrs. Patterson. the wife of Richard's business partner, commented during dinner. So refreshing to meet someone genuine. Richard glanced at Elena, who was listening intently to Danny's teacher discussing his progress in school. She had insisted they invite Mrs. Henderson when she learned the teacher would be attending alone. "Yes," Richard said quietly, surprising himself with the honesty in his voice. "She is." As the evening progressed, Richard found himself forgetting that this was supposed to be pretense. The way Elena's eyes lit up when she laughed at his stories, the gentle way she touched his arm when introducing him to new people, the pride in her voice when she talked about Danny's accomplishments. It all felt remarkably real. During the dancing portion of the evening, Elena hesitated when Richard offered his hand. "I'm not much of a dancer," she admitted. "Neither am I," Richard said. "We'll figure it out together." On the dance floor, holding Elena close as they moved slowly to the music, Richard felt something shift inside him. This woman who had been quietly taking care of his family for 2 years, who knew exactly how Danny liked his sandwiches cut and remembered every school event, who had stepped into this role tonight without asking for anything in return. When had she become so essential to his happiness? "Richard?" Elena's voice was soft, uncertain. "You're staring at me." "I'm sorry," he said, but he didn't look away. I'm realizing something." "What?" "That I've been an idiot." Elena laughed, the sound music to his ears. "Care to elaborate?" "I've been so focused on what everyone else thinks about my life that I forgot to pay attention to what was actually in it. You take care of Danny like he's your own son. You make our house feel like a home. You stepped into this evening without hesitation because you knew it was important to me." "Richard, I'm not asking you to pretend anymore, Elena. I'm asking if you'd consider making this real, not for the board, not for appearances, but because somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you." Elena stopped dancing, her eyes searching his face. "You don't know what you're saying." "The stress of tonight, I know exactly what I'm saying. I love how you sing Spanish lullabies to Danny when you think no one's listening. I love how you save the comics from the Sunday paper for me because you know I read them. I love that you see people for who they really are, not what they can do for you." Tears gathered in Elena's eyes. "Richard, your world." "My world? They're very different." "No," he said firmly. "Our world. The one we've already built together without realizing it. Danny adores you. You make me want to be a better man. What else matters?" 6 months later, Richard stood in the same kitchen where he had made his desperate proposal, but everything had changed. Elena was officially no longer his employee, but his partner in every sense that mattered. Danny had started calling her Mama Elena without any prompting, and Elena had begun teaching him Spanish songs while they cooked dinner together. The merger had gone through successfully, but Richard found he cared less about business victories than he did about the small moments. Elena's laugh over morning coffee, Danny's excitement when he mastered a new Spanish phrase, the three of them curled up on the couch for movie nights. "Do you ever regret it?" Elena asked one evening as they watched Danny build an elaborate fort in the living room. Choosing love over appearances, Richard pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against his side. "The only thing I regret is waiting so long to see what was right in front of me." That night, as they tucked Danny into bed together, their son looked up at them with sleepy contentment. "I like our family," he said simply. "Me too." "Me, Joe," Elena whispered, kissing his forehead. "Me 3, Richard added, understanding finally that the most authentic life wasn't about meeting other people's expectations. It was about recognizing love when it quietly entered your world and having the courage to embrace it. Sometimes the greatest transformations don't happen in grand gestures or dramatic moments. They happen in the gentle accumulation of daily kindnesses, in the slow recognition that what you thought you needed and what you actually needed were two entirely different things, and sometimes the love that saves you is the one that was already there, patiently waiting for you to stop pretending and start living.